The Michael Jackson story. Sort of. They cover the Jackson 5, the strained relationship between Michael and his father, Michael going solo, his first solo album and new label, and his first solo tour, and they end the film in 1988. I feel that this film was very much a watered down version of events, and they never really captured how famous Michael was around that sort of time. The actor portraying him felt like his performance was very much a caricature rather than capturing the essence of Michael. It was very much more of an imitation. Have we become so desensitized to these biopics that the mystery around these musical artists have now evaporated through social media and the internet? As it's almost now like we know too much. So, have this film been released 10 years too late? So the film very much starts off with the early years of the Jackson 5, and the family are working out their routines, the songs at home in their living room, and Joe, the father, the manager who overseeing everything, he is basically hammering it in on them. It's like, right, we got to get this right. He's quite strict about it as well. He wants them to succeed. He wants them to be the best group that's ever lived, and is pinning all his hopes on Michael, who has an amazing voice even at such a young age. And so he really tries to make them work hard and work day and night on their stuff, to the point where they start basically playing gigs and start performing in front of people and start to get some notoriety from massive music labels and production companies that want to sign him and sign them. And so they start touring and they start building a brand, and you see that, and you also see them rising through the ranks, and songs like ABC and all the other sort of Jackson 5 hits that you know and love. Then we get to the adult Michael Jackson, and we see him wanted to branch out from the family and create his own thing, because he has been doing the Jackson 5 thing for quite some time now and believes that he has more music of his own to produce and make. And so he's very much in a conflict with his family, whether he doesn't want to do wrong by his brothers, but also wants to do his own thing. And so in the end, he decides, right, okay, I have all these songs, I must bring these out into the world and create my own thing. And so he starts off with a new label and very much becomes his own person and becomes his own act. And that's where we see Michael Jackson that we know. And it's sort of his rise to fame and his rise to through the ranks of the music world. And you see him building his library and building his songs and albums that we know and love through working with various different music producers like Quincy Jones, for example, and really working out his routines and his own thing. And because of the success of his first album, now Joe wants to capitalize on this. And so he wants to bring him back to the family. And Michael was still trying to reclaim his own self to work on his own stuff, but again is still drawn to his family roots and wants to do right by his brothers. And then after that, it all kicks off. So if you were expecting to have a life and times of Michael Jackson from start to finish of this entire film, you'd be wrong. Because what they do here is they focus on an area of his life that made him the person that he became. They mainly focused on the Jackson 5 stuff and the early solo Michael Jackson albums and his early solo tours. And so they started from the early 60s to like 1988. And so by doing that, it opens up for a sequel, possibly, which I think they will do, because there's a lot of other parts of Michael Jackson that they did not cover. And so they'd be stupid not to follow up on it as well, because there's a whole other story that you could tell in the later part of his life. So they focused mainly on this early part, and which is good, don't get me wrong. But I do feel that it was very much watered down, especially when it comes to the strained relationship between him and his father. From certain interviews and documentaries and other stuff that I've seen, he was very much a very tough father. A few scenes where you see him being quite violent and aggressive towards them, but it's very much the PGU rating. Yes, he wanted them to succeed. He wanted to work them hard so that they can get the best out of him, but it was tough. It was a tough upbringing. And so they showed a piece of it, but I think it could have been done a little bit better and a bit more truthful, I feel. But there's only certain things you can and can't do and show on film. So I'm not really a filmmaker, but hey ho, it's just my opinion. Also, I found that they gave you a little insight into why Michael Jackson wore the glove. And that was really quite a good little detail, which they were like, oh, his skin was getting blotchy in certain areas. And so he wanted to cover up with wearing a glove. And he was going through all this like medical stuff at the time. And so that was quite an interesting insight. What I found was the best scene of the whole film was when Michael was doing a rehearsal with all his dancers and he was beatboxing and clicking to nothing. And there's no denying his musical brain and his dance brain. It's really well depicted in this scene when the dancers are observing him and watching him and seeing like what he's doing, and it's really really quite something. And you're watching it and you're like, oh, I know that song. And he goes into that full dance routine and it's really quite a wonderful scene. What I didn't like so much was the fact that they very much copied and pasted a clip or a scene from Bohemian Rhapsody and put it straight into the Michael Jackson film. So there's a scene in Bohemian Rhapsody where Freddie Mercury, played by Rami Malek, is in the tank top, in the vest, and he's preparing to go out to Live Aid, and he's warming up backstage, and he's jumping up and down. They pretty much do the same thing here with Michael Jackson, and he's in London as well, performing at Wembley Stadium, and you're like, come on, guys. They're not even hiding it at this point. And yeah, I know it's made by the same producers and stuff, but like at least do something different with this. Come on, it's Michael Jackson. I feel that we have been quite desensitized to biopics right now because there have been so many that have been made and it is very formulaic. And so you see the rise, the fall, the rise again, and the drug addictions, the alcohol, and the plastic surgery, and just generalization of the rock star, pop star storyline has been told rather quite a lot at the past few years, and it's just like, yes, we get it, okay, we get it. They have their demons, but they still create some of the greatest music that we've known to love over the decades. With the internet and social media now, like we are starting to, there's no mystery around these people anymore because we know so much about them. They're in our everyday lives, on our phones, on our computer screens, everywhere. We just know everything about them. I would say also there were some standout performances. I do believe the actors playing the parents of Michael Jackson were amazing, specifically Coleman Domingo. And his portrayal of Joe Jackson was really, really good. And he completely transformed in this entire film, and I barely recognised him. And he delved into the character and disappeared into him. And that was really, really great. Also, like the relationship between Michael and his bodyguard. And it was nice to know that in those early crazy days of Michael Jackson, he had somebody that he was able to share like thoughts with and able to share like his innermost feelings with. And so that was quite nice to see. But overall, I think the film was very much like watered down. The film was good, the choice of music was good, the costume design was pretty accurate and done really well, and some of the outfits clear as day in my mind. I was like, yeah, I remember that's from that tour, that's from that music video. So they completely, speaking of music videos, they completely recreate the Thriller music video. And I'm pretty sure they shot in the same location because it's eerily similar, and even down to the red jacket and the makeup he had on for the Thriller outfit and the zombie makeup and all that sort of stuff. It is like picture perfect, and so you can't fault Antoine Fuqua for that one. That one was absolutely incredible. So it's a mixed bag, and I feel like they could have, gone a bit deeper on certain things and gone a little bit like more sort of hardcore on sort of aspects of his life around that sort of time. So otherwise, though, it was entertaining, it was fun, and it was good to see Michael Jackson at that time in his life up on the stage and up on the big screen. And so definitely check this film out in the cinema. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I shall see you in the next video.